Professor, thank you for joining us. I wanted to ask, how has your experience in Mongolia illustrated the role of public health policy in responsible international development?
Well, the whole basis of our project in Mongolia is, of course, trying to build the resources and capacity in public health so that Mongolia and Mongolians can manage their extremely rapid economic and social development and change. And it's interesting that they had come to that without us coming there, that in fact, as they developed their independent government, society, and social institutions, one of the institutions they created was the School of Public Health, which is really very unusual.
In addition to the public health school that they introduced, what other innovative measures have the Mongolian authorities taken in the process of managing this unprecedented resource wealth?
I think the most innovative thing they did, and I've never heard of any other country doing it, was to realize the potential for serious social, economic, and other impacts of such rapid development if there wasn't a conscious and transparent intervention to manage it for public good. And they did this by consultation with the Norwegian government and going to look at the example of the Norwegian National Fund, which to my knowledge is the only successful attempt to create a repository for a great deal of the wealth generated, in the case of Norway, by North Sea oil and gas, for the future development and social needs and social betterment of Norwegian society. And Mongolia has adopted that model in terms of its management of funds that have come in to date.
How can multilateral groups or international development organizations encourage other governments to implement these kinds of responsible, forward-looking development strategies as have been pursued in Mongolia and Norway?
Yeah. Well, there's obviously a lot of cultural and historical context for societies being willing and able to implement these sorts of alternative paths, and therefore not necessarily easy to export or emulate in different kinds of societies, particularly societies with much more social strife and division than I think characterize both Mongolia and Norway. And it's interesting you mention that, because if you think about them, they're not that different. They're very homogeneous, to some extent isolated countries, that is, have been isolated from the mainstream of the continents in which they exist, after a period of being quite warlike, but for hundreds and hundreds of years. So perhaps had some time to build a kind of social cohesion which permitted these decisions to be proposed and then adopted. I think that international organizations should do a lot of study of Mongolia and look at the points, decision points, the strengths which permitted this, the warning signals if these are starting to develop, but really overall looking at the benefits of adopting this strategy as opposed to free market development and lack of control on political and social corruption and impacts, but really to show that this is a path that I think leads to better social benefits for the country as a whole.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah.